Get into this, man. It's 50 Cent accusing Big Meech of snitching.
One of the most unexpected beefs of 2025 has had everyone at the edge of their seats. Shocked would be the word best to describe seeing former drug trafficker / street legend Big Meech next to former corrections officer / rapper Rick Ross. Ross would always give the facade that he was some drug lord from Miami, even going as far as naming himself after a drug lord from Los Angeles. Ross would mention Big Meech on his 2010 album Teflon Don, the very nickname of none other than John Gotti. Within the song BMF, Ross would rap, "I think I'm Big Meech, Larry Hoover." Ross would be boldly comparing himself to Meech, who we all know ran BMF, the Black Mafia family. A drug trafficking money laundering organization founded in 1985 in southwest Detroit, prosecutors allege BMF made over $270 million over the course of its operation. A Los Angeles drug source with direct ties to Mexican cartels would be the entryway in which BMF established direct routes to Atlanta, where they flooded the southern states with kilos of cocaine. But this wasn't the only person Rick Ross felt he was like. He'd also name another street legend, Larry Hoover. Hoover is being held responsible for founding the Gangster Disciples in Chicago way back in the late 60s. A gang that's very much still active today, having spread to the East Coast and throughout the southern states. Larry Hoover is currently imprisoned at ADX Florence, the federal supermax prison home to terrorists, gangsters, and other major drug lords such as El Chapo. Hoover is currently serving 6 life sentences, while Big Meech was just released from federal prison in October of 2024. Back in 2008, Meech was sentenced to 30 years, and in 2024, Meech would have his sentence reduced to 20 years. A judge would then grant a 32-month reduction off of the 20-year sentence. Serving over 16 years straight in federal prison, Big Meech would finally be released. What the fuck Rick Ross has in common with either of these men is unknown, as the only drugs he sold was in songs, and the only prison Ross was in was the South Florida Reception Center when he worked there. But even then, whether Meech wanted a link with Ross because of the 14-year-old song, or Ross had some money for Meech so Ross could continue role-playing like a drug lord, many believe Meech's loyalty was due elsewhere. What's up, everybody? It's 1090 Jake. I'm rocking with y'all and y'all rocking with me, and for this video, we're gonna be speaking on Big Meech versus 50 Cent and the paperwork party. When it comes to war, few are as relentless and unforgiving as 50 Cent. And if you need a reminder, 50 just went viral again for dissing Irv Gotti after Irv was declared brain dead from a second stroke. 50 would fire the internet up with a post saying, "I'm smoking on that Gotti pack. Nah, God bless him, LOL." The beef between the two dates back to the 90s, and even Chicago rapper 600 Breezy would leave a comment saying, "Every day, he shows us why they hit him 9 times. Well, it's rumored that Irv Gotti was one of the men responsible for 50 being hit 9 times. 50 has had a notoriously long career of not giving a fuck, and in this case, things have seemingly become personal because 50 gave a fuck. For those that don't remember, Big Meech's son, Lil Meech, was known for years as nothing more than his father's son. But he'd break into stardom when 50 pushed him into the direction of a lead role for a show. Based on BMF, Lil Meech would be playing his own father, and 50 would be the executive producer behind the scenes. With no experience, Lil Meech would state in an interview 50 invested in him early on, going as far as paying for his acting classes so he could secure the role in the show as his father. Becoming a success, Lil Meech would find himself in a new light and out of his father's shadow as he thrived in his acting role. With Big Meech being released, the father-son duo would finally be reunited, and everyone expected big things for the future. What nobody expected was Big Meech and Rick Ross. A welcome back legacy concert would be posted on Meech's Instagram with a long list of major artists set to perform in Broward County, Florida. It wasn't the fact that Ross was performing, it was that they took pictures and videos together. Immediately, the internet knew 50 was gonna react, and he didn't disappoint. 50 would post a picture of a rat saying, "I think I'm Big Meech." Now, many were initially confused as to who he was dissing, but it seems more likely that 50 was dissing Rick Ross, as he was quoting Ross's own song. But then again, the caption would read, "His biggest mistake he ever made was not sustaining his relationship with Tammy Cohen's. Her tell-all documentary reveals the truth." Tammy Cohen's was once a business partner and close friend of Big Meech, but according to federal paperwork, became a federal informant. Ross would clap back at 50 with a post of his own, and of course he promoted his car show, which is believed to be the reason he linked with Meech in the first place. See, Ross isn't dumb. Meech being in prison for the last 17 years is a decent excuse, while Ross knew exactly what he was doing. Ross wanted to link with Meech, knowing the controversy it would start up, so he could then promote his upcoming car show. But the effect in doing so would leave Meech in a worse position than what he came home to. 50 would start dropping bombs, even posting texts from Lil Meech that read, "They just told me you unfollowed me off Instagram, and now you're managing Skillet Baby with Rocket when I brought him around you first when you didn't have a clue who he was. Now you're mad at me when I would take the shirt off my back for you.
Big man.
I can't believe this, man. You act as if I'm your enemy. I've only showed you love and loyalty. I'm human. I go through my own shit, but I never switched up on you. Fuck Ross, but he gave my dad some bread so he could afford to pay his bills until our next season starts. This internet shit is throwing me off, man. You know me in real life." 50 would reply with, "What next season?" 50 would make it clear that Big Meech's choice wouldn't affect just him, but also his son and the existence of the BMF show. After all, how could 50 continue a show based on a rat? While the Black Mafia family was pushing kilos of cocaine, BMF Entertainment was a music business used as a front to launder money. The label would promote several hip-hop artists, but Blue Da Vinci would be the only artist actually signed to BMF. Roughly 150 BMF members would be indicted, but Blue would be free for more than a year before finding himself taken down by the feds. The BMF rapper was accused of doing nothing more than loading and unloading cocaine from vehicles and counting money from stash houses in Atlanta. Blue would eventually be sentenced to 5 years and 4 months in federal prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release. In recent years, BMF members would accuse Blue Da Vinci of having snitched in the case. One of those men would be none other than Dexter Sosa Hussey. Having served 12 years for trafficking and money laundering, Sosa was the head of logistics for BMF, as he took on the responsibility of managing loads of 150 kilos at a time and transporting them across the country. Sourced directly from the cartel, Sosa would study maps, routes, and familiarize himself with the areas in which he trafficked. He'd even go as far as learning which times of day police were most active, giving him a window to take advantage of through different time zones across the country. A calculated operator, Sosa would take the Vlad TV, speaking on Blue Da Vinci.
Well, did Blue Da Vinci cooperate or no?
Yeah, he cooperated. I mean, I didn't see it. It was in Miss Mara Shalhoub's book, where his own lawyer said, yeah, if there was anything else that we could do, Your Honor, to help you along with this case, my client would be more than willing to cooperate with you all to help you in this investigation. But now the thing of it is by you admitting what was done, you know what I'm saying, you what you done or whatever, but bottom line is, you know, you didn't take the single plea. You went in and was giving them information on shit that they already had and thought it was cool, but you know, that was part of that. You just confirmed other shit that the other CIs just done told. Plus you did a smack video prior to that was giving them the whole fucking play. They never knew nothing about it. That smack video was detrimental in finding out who each person was.
What Sosa was referring to would be written out in Blue Da Vinci's sentencing transcripts. Blue was being called up in court, and as he made his way to the podium, his lawyer stated to the judge, "As he's coming up, Your Honor, I did leave one thing out. You had asked some of the other defendants whether or not they cooperated. Mr. McKnight, aka Blue Da Vinci, was one of the individuals who did attempt to cooperate. He was debriefed by the government, but basically he didn't know anything that was useful against the remaining defendants." So Blue Da Vinci's lawyer would essentially be the one who exposed Blue did attempt to cooperate and was debriefed by the feds. Blue would then tearfully give a statement in court before being sentenced to 5 years and 4 months. But did he actually snitch? It's clear as day that he attempted to, but none of the information he provided was of any use or could be used against anyone. Sosa would accuse Blue of confirming things other informants had already stated, so while he technically wasn't making things worse, he definitely wasn't making them better, and he only did so to secure a lesser sentence. At one point, Big Meech would accuse Blue of snitching, but according to Blue, Meech would apologize after. And in the end, Blue would get the final laugh as his name remains stained, but it would be Blue that dropped the paperwork on Big Meech. Blue would do an interview with Cam Capone back in 2023 providing the paperwork exposing Tammy Cohen's. Tammy was Big Meech's assistant. With Meech already taken down by the feds, Tammy would seemingly prove her loyalty by remaining in contact with Meech through calls and letters. With years in prison ahead of him, Meech would make a risky business move by signing over his life rights to Tammy. This now meant Tammy owned the life story of Big Meech and could turn it into millions. But this wasn't the only business move Meech made. While in jail, Meech met a cartel member by the name of Fidel Suarez. Suarez owned and operated a trucking company in California and had been investigated/arrested without conviction for drug trafficking in 2005 and 2009. Meech would use Tammy to connect Suarez with a lifelong friend named Dion Gatling, who's more commonly known as the St. Louis drug lord Cuffy. Tammy would bridge the gap for further drug distribution, but what Cuffy and Suarez didn't know was she was a confidential informant and was reporting everything to the feds. CS1, or confidential source number 1, has been identified as Tammy Cohen's. Paperwork would state she first became a confidential informant for the Atlanta DEA back in 2009, where she provided information in a money laundering case that resulted in the successful prosecution and conviction of another Atlanta kingpin legend named Terry White.
It's believed that Terry White grew up in an Atlanta housing project. But when FBI and GBI agents arrested him last night, he was living here, a sprawling $200,000 mansion in Jonesboro. The 27-year-old was in the process of renovating his home, which features an outdoor swimming pool, a full-length basketball court, and more.
I had a media room where there were 24 TV sets on one wall hooked to a satellite dish. And you could hit a button and all 24 TVs would come on.
Agents seized the home and 3 cars which belonged to White, including this $110,000 Rolls-Royce, which was paid for in cash. But there was more to be found inside. $47,000 cash and a machine to count the money. Thousands in gold jewelry and mink coats. A small catch of ammunition and weapons, including a loaded Uzi semi-automatic pistol.
The feds would note Tammy Cohen's was an unusual informant, as she had no criminal record, was not a known drug user, did not appear motivated by money, and was not looking to get a reduced prison sentence or charges dismissed. Instead, she appeared motivated by revenge, as Terry White had her unknowingly laundering money for him. Tammy Cohen's was not initially a paid informant, but an agent would put her in for an award that would be a percentage of the property seized in the case. Tammy would receive a total of $55,000 for putting away Terry White. When Tammy Cohen's became a confidential informant, she'd already been a longtime friend and associate of Big Meech. Specifically, she held the life rights of Big Meech, and in 2011, Meech requested her help in coordinating a delivery of cocaine through Suarez. Meech told Tammy he met Suarez while inside of a county jail in Michigan, and as time went on, Meech would ask her to connect Suarez with Cuffy. So she'd reported to the feds that Meech had her coordinate a cocaine delivery in 2011 while Meech was in prison. But for some reason, Meech would never face an indictment for her allegations. At a later evidentiary hearing, Tammy would deny that Meech had any involvement with drug trafficking activities between Suarez and Cuffy. She'd also deny Meech directed her to connect them. And now, the feds were starting to believe Tammy Cohen's was no longer a credible informant. That, and the fact that it was discovered she was sleeping with the federal agent assigned to her. So what would make her start covering up for Meech? Wiretaps would reveal Cuffy's alleged involvement in the murders of 2 individuals cooperating with law enforcement, and along with Tammy providing information on him drug trafficking, Cuffy would be indicted in 2014. Cuffy's legal team would file motions that would leave Tammy Cohen's panicking. At this time, nobody knew she was an informant, and Tammy saw information within Cuffy's motion that she believed would allow people close to the case to identify her. The DEA agent controlling her would testify in court that she expressed concern over the motions and that she panicked and took several measures to try to protect herself. Apparently, Tammy drove several hours to Louisiana in an attempt to visit Big Meech in federal prison to explain her position and try to deflect any accusations. So essentially, she was seeking Meech's advice on how to handle being exposed as a confidential informant. It's believed she wasn't able to visit him, but when she did speak with him, Big Meech told Tammy he didn't want his name caught up in this mess. Nothing is said about Meech being shocked, surprised, or angry, and finding out his assistant, who he trusted with his life rights, was now working with the feds. He just didn't want his name being brought up, showing that he knew. To further protect herself and Meech, Tammy would state the wiretaps contained false information. She was now saying that Meech never connected Suarez to Cuffy, and that the DEA agent Tammy was having sex with was jealous of her relationship with Meech and was trying to frame him. The feds would quickly realize Tammy was no longer credible, and due to the fear of being exposed, she was now attempting to distance Big Meech from Suarez and Cuffy. In 2019, at the age of 53, Cuffy would be sentenced to 27 years in prison for drug trafficking and use of firearms in furtherance of drug trafficking, resulting in death. Fast forward to 2024, Camp Capone would have Blue Da Vinci back on, but this time, Blue had none other than Cuffy on the line so he could speak out for himself from prison.
But I'm in here with a 27-year sentence based on Demetrius Flannery, as you all know as Big Meech, and Tammy Cohen's, known in the paperwork as CS1. So what Big Meech did was called a third-party cooperation. So Tammy Cohen signed up to be a DEA informant to give Demetrius Flannery a time cut, plain and simple.
Cuffy would start off strong, saying he's doing 27 years because of Meech, and claim Meech did what's called a third-party cooperation. Cuffy would claim Tammy Cohen's, who was already a DEA informant, cooperated against him for Big Meech's benefit. This would be backed by the paperwork that stated back in 2011, Tammy was tasked with targeting Hispanics involved in drug trafficking. She'd be spared from having to testify as they'd be sent back to Mexico. When asked if she gets something big, the DEA agent would interrupt her saying, "You'll get a lot of money." But instead, she asked to get Big Meech a time cut, to which the DEA agent said, "We can work on that." Cuffy discovered this through a Frank's hearing in which his legal team was able to cross-examine his accusers, including government agents and informants. Tammy would be present to testify, and these transcripts are of what she said. Fidel Suarez was Hispanic, clearly pushing drugs through his trucking operation. Cuffy wanted drugs, Meech connected them through Tammy, and Tammy sat back and watched it all unfold. But Meech would never receive the time cut because it was discovered Tammy was having sex with the DEA agent responsible for her. So in the end, Tammy's cooperation did not benefit Meech, but because of it, Cuffy's phone was wiretapped and he was taken down as a result of them finding evidence and sentenced to 27 years. Now this is where you as a viewer have to decide as to what you believe. Tammy received the life rights to Big Meech after he was taken down by the feds. Tammy then became a DEA informant, which even the feds questioned as she didn't want or need money, wasn't a drug addict, and wasn't facing criminal charges. So what was her motive? Tammy was told she'd be targeting Hispanics and asked in return for her cooperation that Big Meech would receive a lesser sentence. She was cooperating, being paid to do so, but also doing so for Meech to benefit. When accidentally exposed as an informant through court filings mentioning her name, she panicked, running to Meech, who was in prison. Meech told her he wanted his name to stay out of it, and at that time, she recanted all statements regarding Meech, saying he had nothing to do with bringing Suarez and Cuffy together. Tammy was then exposed for having sex with a DEA agent, ruining any chances of helping Meech, and Cuffy goes down because of the wiretap brought on by Tammy. So why wouldn't Cuffy believe Meech was behind it? Tammy didn't make a move Meech didn't tell her to make. She was his assistant, entrusted enough that he signed over his life rights. She only began cooperating after Meech was taken down and continued to visit him for years in prison. They remained in contact long after she informed him she was exposed as an informant, and she even went on to become a co-producer for BMF, the TV series, along with executive producer 50 Cent. The show would premiere in 2021, 2 years after Cuffy was sentenced. 50, being a chess master, was now trolling Big Meech with the promise of a Tammy Cohen's documentary coming soon. Turns out, 50 would buy Big Meech's life rights from Tammy. So now 50 is in control with the power to essentially end the BMF series and expose Big Meech through the help of his former associate, Tammy Cohen's. Big Meech's Welcome Back concert would be canceled just before it started. Lil Meech would already be doing Instagram promos as his acting career just ended, and strings were seemingly being pulled as all of the aura that Big Meech once had was being swept away by 50 Cent. And let's be clear, only someone as influential as 50 Cent had the power to pull this off, as many had spoke on Big Meech's paperwork in the past, but it took a megastar to solidify it and spread it to the masses. 50 would continue to troll Meech, posting a GoFundMe stating Meech needs help paying his bills, and Lil Meech would post a picture to Instagram with Floyd Mayweather and Rick Ross saying real power. Of course, those comments would be turned off. Lil Meech made millions off the BMF series with 50 Cent to thank. And it's alleged that he spent it all trying to maintain a rapper's image, and now him and his father are both struggling while 50 is ready to end BMF over disloyalty. Why Meech would turn to Ross is unknown, but 50 is making him stand on it. And it's also unknown, but alleged, that Meech and Tammy had a fallout, which placed her right into the hands of 50 Cent. In the end, there has yet to be a paper unsealed showing Big Meech 100% cooperated, but as some have said, he came home 15 years too early. It would seem only Tammy Cohen's has the power to truly solidify Big Meech's legacy or destroy it completely, and that is 50 Cent's final bullet. Now, a lot of research went into this video. We're dealing with a very big name, and at the same time, I wanted to let everything play out. So please excuse my absence in this situation. But I mean, 50 just made it a series. This wasn't even one show that just took place in a day. This shit's been going on for a while. The content just seemed to keep coming. At the end of the day, from what I've seen from legal paperwork, Meech allegedly was still involved in the game in the feds and was never charged with anything. Meech allegedly knew that Tammy Cohen's was a DEA informant because she went to him and told him. Meech responded, "Keep my name out of it." He didn't want anyone to know. Cuffy is serving 27 years because of an investigation caused by Tammy. Tammy was cooperating to get Meech a time cut. I highly doubt Tammy needed the money. She's connected to BMF. But Tammy specifically stated she wanted to get him a time cut. She was cooperating so Big Meech could get a time cut. She was seduced by an ATF agent and blew the whole fucking operation. So because she essentially fucked up, she then went to 50 Cent. Now 50 is gonna pay her more money than the DEA. Big Meech is fucked. And the entire BMF series seems to be over with. Do I think Big Meech snitched? I'm not sure, honestly. Do I think he knew about what Tammy was doing? The paperwork says yes. And that right there is enough, right? Because you know this girl is snitching and doing it so you benefit. So Cuffy saying that Meech did a third-party cooperation doesn't sound far-fetched, because the paperwork clearly states she was cooperating for Meech to get out. But let me know y'all's thoughts and comments in the comment section. It's 1090 Jake. I'm rocking with y'all and y'all rocking with me. Until next time.
You heard him. Let me know what y'all thinking in the comments.